Hey, hi friends, welcome to today's video. So today we are going to discuss about dependency container and singleton. In my last video I discussed that how I can create a reusable logger that we can use throughout the app to log all type of events. Now we'll see that how we can use this logger in much better way so that I don't need to create this instance which I was creating it locally. Because if let's say that I have 50 views, I should not be doing this 50 times, right? Before continue, I just want to request you all one thing. If you see here, if you see the views from the subscribe is just 36%. So I just ask you people one thing, that please do subscribe the channel. As a creator, it gives me a great pleasure when I see the subscriber count increasing after every video. Now, one of the common thing what you have seen in such kind of thing is to use singleton design pattern. And let me just write few piece of code so that I can use singleton. Let me just remove first all this thing I don't need at this point of time. So let me remove all this code. I'll just keep single text for a time being. Okay, and let me remove all these things also. So now I have simple one view with one text. And all this method also I can get rid of. I don't need all this method, even this thing. Okay, so now I have simple one content view, and let me create another class called view model for this. Okay, now which pattern I'm going to use for this video, that we'll discuss in coming videos. Just for this demo purpose, I'm just creating a view model. So let's call it content view model. Okay, now here I have a class content view model which conforms to observable object. Okay, and let's say that I have a function here on appear. Okay, and whenever the view appears, I need to log something that this view has loaded. So let me create a view model object here, and this will be of type, let's say, observed object. Okay, and whenever this view appears on the on appear, I'm going to call view model dot on appear. And now what I want to do, I want to log some event there, right? So the first approach we can do is that using a singleton. Okay, I'm just trying to show you that what are all the possible way. It's up to you that you choose the best what suits to your project architecture. Okay, so the first approach that I'm going to take is the singleton. Okay, so for that what I need to do, I need to create a shared object here. So let's say that static let shared equals to bz logger. Okay, and I will override the init method so that I cannot create any instance from outside. Okay, as simple as it is. So now for the time being, I'm not using this interface. I'm just directly creating the object through the class implementation. And here what we can write, we can write bzlogger dot shared dot log an event. Let's say that I want to log info view is loaded. Okay, and through this singleton you can access this logger throughout the project without any issue, right? You don't have any issue in accessing your singleton class, because this is available throughout the project. Now the problem what the singleton gives you, that let's say that if your project has multiple type of dependency, see logger is one of the thing, you can see that it's printing perfectly, so there's no issue, everything is working fine. Okay, now let's come to the topic. Now you can have multiple singleton. Let's say that logging is one of the thing. You can have analytics, You can have some other dependency which is being reused through out the app, or you want to share some sort of data throughout the app. There are a lot of use case for that. Now, if I go with this singleton approach, we will end up having lots and lots of singleton in our app, and that's one thing which we want to avoid using singleton in our app, because first thing is that singleton is hard to test. Now, what is the other approach? Now, to avoid this singleton, we have a concept of dependency, right? Like instead of using the singleton, you can inject it through dependency. That's another approach. Okay, now let's try to see the same thing through dependency instead of creating this singleton. So I'm going to comment this line. Okay, I'm also going to comment here. I'm not going to use this static late. So this is also committed and this is also committed for a time being. Okay. Now what basically we need some sort of dependency which has to be injected. Now dependency injection can be done in multiple ways. Now here what I can do, I can inject some sort of dependency which is going to be type of busy logger, not busy logger. In our case, it can be type of logger type, busy logger type. Okay, and here I can have instance of logger which will be again of type busy logger type. Okay, and this logger will be initialized here, and then I can use logger dot the same thing info. Okay, now here I can pass the message. Let's say view is loaded. Okay, now when you create init method, that means that when the view model is getting created, we need to pass this value, right? So it will, once you run this app right now, it will throw you error in the content view. Let me remove all this shift warning. And here you can see that it's throwing you a error. Now one way what I can do is that I can initialize a default value here instead of having it or giving it while creating this object. So if I'm not giving anything, let's take the default value as busy logger, and let's say that when you want to test something, you can pass the mock dependency also. Okay, now let me run it again. I hope it should work perfectly this time. Okay, and you can see that I'm getting the proper log also. But again, what is happening that I'm passing it through dependency injection, but I'm creating this dependency here. Now one thing you can think here that is, okay, I'll create a dependency one time, and then I will keep it passing it down the child view. Let's say that, for example, if I have something like a view A, so I created the dependency at view A level, or not at view A level. Let's say that we have this, right, this content view where it is starting. So I'll create a dependency at this level, and then I'll keep passing it down the line, right, for all the views. Now the problem in this approach will be that, let's say that you are going from view A to view B, and then C, then let's say D, and let's say E. Okay, now this logger almost you need in all the view or all the view models, so you can easily pass to each of the view by just injecting into their constructor when creating the view model object. But let's say that, what if you're creating some dependency at A, but you don't want at B, you don't want at C, you don't want at D, you want at E. Now if you keep passing through this constructor injection, you have to unnecessarily pass that dependency to each of your class level down the line, because if I don't pass to B, the C will not get, then if C will not get, D will not get, and finally I cannot have that at E because that dependency is with A. Okay, so That's one of the problem that you can get if you pass all these dependency no like through the each of the child classes. And the second thing it can happen that you will end up having lots and lots of dependency into your init method. So this is just the starting of the app. We have just a logger, we'll have analytics, we'll have service, we'll have let's say if you are using A/B test, you will have something related to A/B test or localize, and there'll lot of things which will keep coming. And what you will end up that your init method is having 8 to 10 dependencies. So this approach is also good, but it has also its own limitations. And for this something which is related with this busy logger, I don't see that this is actually a great approach. Now if you see in general, there can be two type of dependency. One is a local dependency and one is a global dependencies. The local dependency is like which is very much related to a particular view or particular view model. Okay, let's say for example a specific kind of service or a specific kind of some logic. Now if those dependency you create and pass through the this constructor overriding, there's no problem because you don't need to pass, you'll not have such cases like passing from A to B. And even if you are creating at let's say that you have 50 screen and you are creating that dependency at two or three places, that is not such a big problem for you. But there will be some type of dependency which will be of global type, and that can be used in multiple places. Like say for example you can have your network classes, and that network classes will be used by multiple services layer, right? Now instead of passing it through multiple service, why can't I have something at a global level? Then what can be the other approach that we can avoid this also, like the passing it through the constructor, and we don't want to use singleton also. So what we saw the first approach as singleton, the second approach we saw di with constructor injection, and the third thing that we are going to see is di with dependency injection container. Okay, now what happens basically in this dependency injection container, that you will have a container basically will have two methods. One will be your register where you will be registering all the dependencies, and then there will be one method resolve which will give you the dependency that you want. Okay, now there are lots of third party for this dependency injection container. One popular that I see is Swinject. Now it's not like that you have to use this third party, you can even use your own. Now if you see here, what does this say is that this is a software design pattern that implements inversion of control for resolving dependencies. In this pattern, Swinject helps your app split into loosely coupled component, which can be developed, tested, and maintained more easily. So even if we are using this concept as we are using DI, we can always mock it and you can always test it, and that thing be something which we miss the singleton. Okay, now there are a lot of things like Swinject storyboard that also we can use. We have code gen. We are not going to see all this. We will just use this for our DI container. Okay, so it can be installed through Carthage, Cocoa Pods. I'm going to use the Swift package manager. So let me add it here. So you have to just add this, the first one. Okay. Now if you see in the uses, what you have to do, you have to create this container object, like register all the other dependencies. So let's say that in this example, they are registering animal and the person. And when you want to use something, you can again use this container to resolve it and get it. Okay. Now in many cases, I see that creating this container into app delegate and then accessing it through the app delegate to get the required dependency. Let's create a separate class instead of like doing something in the app delegate. Okay, so if you see this, what I have basically done, I have created a class called injection, and this is my singleton class, where this is the shared instance to access it, and then it have object container. So if the container is that indirectly accessing this container which is private to it, and if the container is nil, it is going to create the container for me. Okay, and this is a container that I was talking about, that it will have this resolve register everything inside it. Okay, so if you see here, we can remove all the dependency, we can reset a lot of things that they have handled. If you want, there you can find a lot of code where you can just simply create your own container with a register and a resolve method. Okay, it's up to you. And then here, what you can do, container dot, and you have see register. Okay, and here you can register all the dependency that you want. Okay, like which has to be accessed global, which has to be accessed locally. I will suggest don't put this in Swinject, because unnecessarily why want to put something at the global level again, because finally it is a singleton, so that one thing you should keep into the mind. Okay, and here, now this, the best part of this is that here you can register something of protocol type, so that in the later video we can see that how we can write even the mock scenarios for all these dependencies. So it's not like the case of singleton where you cannot or taste it directly. Okay, so here I will register my busy logger type dot self. Okay, okay, and here what I'm going to do, when this is registering, you have to return the instance that what you want to basically create that object at that point of time. So here we are creating this busy logger. Okay, so likewise you can register as many as global dependency at this point of time. Okay, and this all thing will be there with this container, and with this container you can access it using the resolve method as I was discussing. Now we want to access this where we want to access this into our view model, right? So now instead of using this init and creating this instance here, we will be using this class that we have created, that is this injection. Okay, because now this will not be coming from here, so I can write something like injection dot share dot container dot resolve. Okay, and you have to provide that what kind of service you want. So let's say that I want to, because we have just one, so I'll just pass that I want this busy logo type. Okay, that's it. Now if you see here that I'm using this force unwrapping, so what will happen, that if this dependency is not registered, then my compiler will crash. Okay, so now let me first run and see whether this works or not. Okay, so I should be able to see this print statement. So let it run, and you can see that this works perfectly. But this doesn't look good, right? Some class dot say dot container. So let's make this syntax little more better. Okay, so what I will do, I'll again go back to my injection here, and let me just fix all this. Now here what we can do, we can take the use of property wrapper of the Swift. So we can write a property wrapper. So now what we did, we created a property wrapper called injected, and this will have this wrapped value. Now instead of doing the whole thing that I was doing here, that means creating this type here, this thing I can write it in my red value. And now instead of having this busy logger, it will take a generic dependency, whatever it will come from there. Okay, so now my value is ready, and what we can do, we can write directly here at the rate injected private var logger, and now you don't need to provide any value. The compiler will automatically go and take the value from this resolve. And let me delete all these things here. Okay, and let me run it again. You can see that I'm still getting the value. And isn't it much simpler? And if you can see, if I remove this code, where is that? Let me go back to my injection, and here if I don't register this dependency, and now if you run it, then the compiler will crash. Okay, so don't think about that unless we are using force unwrapping in this case, and that we should not use, because see, when you're using this dependency, you will always be sure that you have to register it. Like, it in the runtime, it can never happen that some dependency you registered and then it got unregistered, because this process is going to happen at one time. Okay, so even if you forget to register something, so that will come at the time of your implementation only. You never get something crashes which you never see it while developing, and that late come in the production. Okay, so that's all for this discussion, that these three approach we saw. One was the singleton, one was with the dependency injection with the constructor, and the third was with the dependency injection container. Now whichever approach you find that suits you, you are go ahead and use that approach. Now in this project, what I'm going to build, I will try to use mainly this container for all my global dependencies, and I will use this constructor injection for local dependencies. Okay, so that's all for video. Thanks for watching, and if you have not subscribed the channel, then please do subscribe. It really motivates me to bring more and more good video for you. Thanks for watching. Thank you.